Yeah. I was looking in this dictionary. Yeah. They have what's called handwriting. Writing performed with the hand, especially cursive, the type of writing of a person. Yes. Now, I have emailed a lot. I mean, hundreds of thousands of emails, and I have included in this emails ri.pdf and a number of other documents. Yes. Now, let's say that we go back to 2011, and I did read some of these orders for protection. Yeah. And I had been married 10 years, so I did actually know the handwriting of my wife. Now, a lot of husbands, when they think of their own wives, let's say you're a sheriff in XYZ County, you've been married about a decade, and you actually do see the actual handwriting of a spouse. You see it when they write checks, when they sign tax forms, when they sign any documents, or they write you notes, or they do anything. Right. Now, in 2011, I noticed that Heidi's handwriting had slanted from one direction to a different direction. Now, I'm not a forensic scientist, but I know when there's a forgery and when there isn't. Now, it could be that sheriffs that are sitting there thinking, well, it didn't happen in our jurisdiction, don't understand that when I provide evidence of a change of handwriting that is supposedly the same person, they are legally negligent for allowing a protection order that has obstructed my rights and has held my sons hostage for 6 years. Now, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to understand the simplicity of certain laws. When the law requires actual notice and opportunity to be heard, yes, and you don't do that, then it's against the law. When the law requires, it says here in the instruction forms, there must be a signature. Sign the form. Okay, this is dated 2010. That means that every one of these was signed by a person that should have been Heidi Lee Budnick. Every court form. Now, when I'm reading them and I can see that the handwriting is different than the handwriting that my wife had during 10 years of marriage, I can see that there's forgeries on actual court documents. Now, let's say I'm suing every oath of office in the United States, approximately 1.5 million persons. Yes. I'm suing the unions of mandatory reporters, bar associations, law schools. I'm suing every person, corporation, charity, and city, county, state, and federal government employee and their associations that has any knowledge of my rights being violated and my sons being held hostage. Now, I bring in handwriting samples. This is Heidi Budnick's actual handwriting, and I provided a copy of the driver's license, a copy of the marriage certificate, a copy of the Social Security card. I mean, you can see what her actual handwriting looks like, and it slants one direction. And then I go get all the court documents that have her handwriting slanting a different direction. Oh, is that right? Oh, is that right? Oh, is that right? Now, for every sheriff that thought, well, we don't have to enforce the laws of the United States, I can provide copies of every document in every lawsuit and ask every sheriff why they refuse to enforce the national jurisdiction of the federal legislation called the Violence Against Women's Act. Now, when they say, well, it wasn't our jurisdiction, I'm like, well, if I moved to your county, would you have to enforce it? Yes, we would. Then you're legally liable to make sure that it's lawful. Since those in law enforcement have the legal liability to make sure that any and all protection orders or any other court document is legal, they have the liability for the enforcement of it don't they? Now, I don't need to move county after county or state after state. All I have to do is provide a copy of the document, make sure they get the email, and then they're legally liable for the enforcement of the law because they know about the crime. Do you understand? They are all legally liable for the enforcement of the document. That means they are all legally liable to make sure that the document is legal. Now, handwriting is something that will be brought into a court of law. Now, when I take pictures of this RI.PDF, this protection order, and I look at the handwriting of the county clerk, oh my goodness, look at this. This sure does look different than this right here, okay? Now, as I said, a reasonable person, jury of my peers, they're not brain surgeons, okay? They're not all geniuses, all right? They're just everyday people. I bring in the actual documentation that has documented as evidence the crime of violating my rights in holding my sons kidnapped. Okay, then I bring in Sheriff XYZ from any county of the United States. And I asked them, well, did you get the email? Yes. Did you read the document or did you watch the videos that explained why it's a crime to violate the constitutional rights of Americans? Yes. Why didn't you call and have it removed? Well, it wasn't in my county. Well, listen, Sheriff! If I move to your county, you have to enforce it. Then you are legally liable to make sure that it's legal. Now, there's no reason for me to go moving county to county. All I have to do is inform them of the crime. Then they have the legal liability to ensure that it is always legal, every protection order. Okay? Now, I don't think you understand the lawsuit.